the one who is God above whatever anybody can think about. We started off the year 2022, and it's as if it hasn't been long. But as it is, tonight is the second to the last Sunday. So, 18th of December, we are looking at 12 days and less than 5 hours, and the year would have ended. How far have you come in 2022? Well, at least we are still alive. And that means that there is still time. Even these 12 days is still a lot of time for someone out there. We give glory to God, and indeed it is all thanks be to Jehovah. Last week, we were talking about a very important point that came up when we looked at Matthew chapter 19 from verse 16. And that was the place where a man came to Jesus and asked a question. Master, what is the good thing that I must do? What is the good work that I have to do so as to ensure that my salvation will be guaranteed? How do I ensure my salvation? And Jesus gave him a very simple answer. Unfortunately, most of us today, we no longer look at, we no longer pay attention to Jesus' answer to that question. And what was his answer? Jesus started by laying emphasis on one point. If you want to ensure your salvation, then you must be committed to understanding and obeying. Obedience now simply means putting into practice what the commandments state. Why? Because the commandments form the basic foundation for anyone who has a desire to attain salvation. It forms the foundation. That's where it all starts from. But today, how many churches are aware? How many churches teach about the law, the commandments? How many? They will tell you, don't worry, the Old Testament is irrelevant. All those laws, they are no longer applicable. The modernists who call themselves pastors, reverend, whatever title they hold, because they have gone to one university or one Bible school or one Bible college, whatever it is they call them, and they hold one certificate, which could be ordinary diploma, that may not even be worth the paper upon which it is printed. Or they may even gone to one fantastic school. They hold PhD, theology. They become so full of themselves, and they will gladly and confidently say Jesus does not know what he's talking about. Forget what Jesus said. This is modern day. Let us tell you what to do. My dear listeners, look, it is very simple. Honestly, very simple. You always will be responsible. Ultimately, you are responsible for the choices you make. Even if someone told you what is wrong and you accepted it, the truth remains. If you have any tiny bit of the germ of God in you, you will know. Because something inside you will tell you that something is amiss, something is not right here. And you will realize in your consciousness that you have a responsibility to investigate and find out what the truth is. But how many of us have such conscience anymore? How many? We go to church, but our consciences are dead. And when I use the word conscience, what does it really mean? It is that germ of the spirit in you that tries to guide you. So when we talk about conscience, that germ of the spirit serves to guide you on moral grounds, serves to lead you on spiritual pathway. But when it is dead, no wonder many pastors are lost. Many are church goers, they don't even know what they are doing. That becomes a serious problem. So you see, Jesus has said it. Maybe I should read it to you directly as something to think about. Jesus says, if you want to enter into the kingdom, you must keep the commandments. It's as simple as that. He didn't say more than that. Conditional clause, if. That means whatever you do, whatever you think, whatever you choose, the basic condition is you must keep. To keep, it means you must understand and you must put into practice, meaning you must obey. Trust and obey. When you don't know the Lord, how can you trust him? When you don't trust him, how can you obey him? You see, it's a sequence. It all starts with knowing the Lord, knowing what the Lord says, knowing what the Lord is telling you to do, what he demands, what he requires of you. That's where it all starts. This is still a live program on Lead City 89.1 FM. We thank God for the opportunity of this platform. If you have a desire to call in, make a contribution or ask a question, please do feel free. You can call 0706 956 6844. 0706 956 6844 or 0805 094 2988. 0805 094 2988. Any of those two lines you should be able to get through. I think at this point, I must seek the understanding of some of the people who have been following this program. In the course of the week that ended, some of you called in to me or sent some text message, and I was not able to get back to you. Please forgive me. I was actually so tied up with so many things last week that I didn't have time to personally attend to some of your text messages. As a matter of fact, I only read some of them yesterday. Don't worry. It's for the good of everything. That's what we are trying to achieve. So nothing is wrong. It's just that the time wasn't there for me. Now maybe we should take the Voice of Hope song before we continue tonight.
It's calling out today. Voice of hope is calling out today. You can hear it, harden up your heart. Voice of hope is calling out your name. It's calling for you. Now come hit the call. That name Jesus is knocking at your door. You can hear him, harden up your heart. He's calling on like in the days gone by. You let him in, he'll come into your heart. Can you hear him? Can you hear him? Can you hear him now?
Indeed, all any man can boast of is today, for tomorrow may never come. Jesus says, the Father and I stand at the door of every man's heart, and we knock gently. If any man hears and opens the door, we will come in and dine with him. Dear brethren, going to church does not make you a Christian. Turn your life over to him. You have to grow beyond religion to become more like him. Oh, hear his voice today.
Jesus, he is the Lord of all.
Indeed, the man named Jesus is the master of all, and he is always calling to someone. He is calling to everyone, but the question has always been and remains, who will choose to listen to him? Remember, the master says, by their fruits you will know them. It's not by mango fruit. It's not by cashew fruit. It's not by banana. No. It is the fruit that arises from their hearts. The fruits that manifest in their lives. And what are those fruits? The works that every man does. That will be the fruit or fruits that heaven will recognize you by. And the kind of fruit that you have the capacity and the potential to produce will be determined by the extent to which you have an understanding of the law, the commandments. The degree to which you understand and strive, make effort to put into practice what you are learning, what you are understanding, it is to that extent that your fruits will grow and mature. That is what Jesus teaches. Anything else is not part of it, not part of Jesus' teaching. To buttress that point, let's continue from where we stopped last Sunday. You remember, after the man asked the question, "What must I do to ensure my salvation?" And Jesus said, "No, you don't need to do much. All you need to do is obey the commandments." He asked Jesus, said, "Look, which commandment is the most important?" And Jesus said, "There are two parts. 1, 2, 3, 4 concerns God. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 concerns your relationship with other men. Interpersonal relationships. Go and work on all those ones, and then you're on your way to becoming better." And the man said, "Master," you can look at Matthew chapter 19, verse 20 now. He says, "Master, I have carefully kept all these commandments. What is missing in my life?" The man, being a good Jew, had learned to keep the commandments, and he boldly told the master, "I have been careful in obedience, in the practice of the commandments." You and I, can we say that? Can you say you have been careful in obedience to the dictates of the commandments? In fact, with all confidence, I can say that more than 90% of so-called Christians who go to church don't even know the basic summary, the 10 commandments. They don't know. Some are in their 30s and 40s now. They have not for one day studied the 10 commandments to understand the importance of those commandments as basic guides, moral guide that becomes the stepping stone into spiritual progress. They have never for one day learnt it. Pastors don't teach it anymore. I recall that I was taught the basic commandments in primary school. I was less than age 10 when I was taught. In secondary school, nobody talked about it. Of course, who talks about that? Once you leave secondary school, that's the end of the story. I'm aware that nowadays, even primary school level, nobody teaches it, not to talk of secondary. Churches don't even bother. But I'm telling you tonight, go and study the Bible for yourself. Jesus says you must learn. You must learn to know, to understand, and to practice the basic principles, 10 commandments. This man had been practicing the 10 commandments, but he still had a desire to know if there was something else to be done apart from, and Jesus answered him. Jesus said, "If you want to be perfect," please note that statement. If conditional clause again. Meaning, if you have a desire, if you want to, you can choose to become or not to become. So Jesus is saying it and always emphasizing it. It is not compulsory, but it is your choice. To know the Lord is not compulsory. To be a Christian is not compulsory. You can remain a churchgoer. You can remain a churchgoer. It's not compulsory to become a Christian. You can continue, join the number so that the pastor can boast that his church has 10,000 people. Go ahead. Be a filler in the crowd. That is your choice. Or you can choose to make a difference to your life. Jesus told the man, if you want to be perfect, one thing you need to do is go, sell your property, give the money to the poor. Then you will have riches in heaven. Thereafter, come and follow me. That was the answer. Now, let's analyze Jesus' answer. Jesus, excuse me, Jesus emphatically shows that as much as it is important to obey the commandments, that in itself is not enough to attain salvation, because the commandments only serve to teach you what true religion is about. Knowing, understanding, obeying the commandments is about true religion. So, if we say that, and you look at yourself, and you don't even know what the commandments are, can you, in all truthfulness, then claim that you have a religion? Ask yourself. Because when we ask ourselves nowadays, what is religion? What is your religion? On a form, people will immediately write Christianity. What does it mean? Do you actually have a religion? If you don't know what the commandments teaches, each of them, what they teach, you don't have a religion. You may be going to church. I will never argue with that with you. You are a church goer. And until you have a religion, religion is about knowing God and being prepared to seek Him, to serve Him. That is what religion is all about. But then, the ritualistic and legalistic obedience without understanding the need for compassion and dedication to the service of God as a steward is not enough to attain salvation. That is the problem of people now. They don't have true religion. All they have is a ritualistic, legalistic practice. And Jesus says, He told the old religion leaders in those days, and is still saying the same today. It leads nowhere. Blind guides leading blind people, all of them will fall into the gutter. Observance of the law is good, but then each of us must learn to do more. Why? If you want to be perfect, that's all. By saying this, Jesus makes it very clear that attainment of salvation comes with the necessity to pay a price. Salvation is not free. Please listen tonight and carefully too. They have told you salvation is free. To some extent, I agree. But I tell you tonight, salvation is not entirely free. It requires you to pay a price. Salvation is not about money. You can never buy it. However, salvation requires you to dedicate your life to the service of God. That does not mean you must become a pastor. That is another problem on its own. And that's why there are so many fake pastors all over the place. God has not called them into service. They call themselves, usually for useless reasons. You don't need to be a pastor. You don't need to. You don't need to go to Bible school before you can be dedicated to the service of God. Honestly. Now, the price you pay is in obedience to the commandments and in doing good works that the commandments of necessity will demand of you. That is the price you pay. When you understand the commandments, it is a big challenge for you to obey. Why? The world of darkness is very attractive, alluring. You have to deny yourself. You have to tear yourself away from the world of enjoyment and fun seeking. That is the price you have to pay. You must know that you cannot afford to join the bandwagon. That is the price to pay. So when I said salvation is not free, it has a price. That exactly is what I'm trying to bring to your consciousness. But many of us today, we say we are Christians. We are not aware of the price to pay. What do? We behave any way we like. We do whatever we like. Why? Because we lack basic guidance. Christians, their basic motives in life: I want to have fun. I want to enjoy my life. That's why you'll see them, retinue of different girls, retinue of different boys. Of course, they call themselves different names. Slay queen, slay mama. They do hook up service or whatever they do. Thereafter, they go to church. Even the pastor will steal the money from the church. The pastor is the one sleeping with all the girls in the choir. Why? Because they lack the knowledge that salvation is not free. They have to pay a price. So they think anything they do, All they need to do is go to God and say, God, forgive me, and that is all. No, it doesn't work that way with God. In all seriousness and honesty, it doesn't work that way. When you do all the rubbish you want to do, don't worry. God will forgive you, but you will pay a price. You must pay a price. God will forgive you, but He will exact a price from you, whether you like it or not. Naturally, because God is so wonderful, He will grant you grace to cover you as you pay the price. That's a fact. Now, if you want to be perfect, is your choice. You must be diligent in doing what the commandments require of you. And everything that the commandments require of you points toward something, just one goal, and that is you must serve others. Service to humanity. That is the essence of good works. Service to humanity. That is what the commandments require. That's why Jesus said, based on Leviticus, the book of Leviticus, Jesus says, love your neighbor as yourself. Love the Lord your God with all your heart. That is the summary of the laws. Everything, that's the summary. Service to humanity. And until you learn to render quality service to humanity, you will never be able to render any service to God. So when somebody says, I am serving God, and yet his soul is wicked to other human beings, which God is he or she rendering service to? I don't know. I don't know which God. Because Jesus makes it very clear. It is your service to man, your service to other people, that will determine the quality of your service before God, and that exactly is what determines whether you will attain salvation or not. Go and read your Bible. Jesus says, there are two groups, one on my right, one on my left. He turned to the ones on the right. He says, welcome into the kingdom, meaning you are already saved. Welcome into the kingdom. That's what it means. And he now says, your salvation is because when I was hungry, you gave me service. When I was naked, you gave me service. When I was in prison, you rendered service. And the people looked at her and said, Lord, when were those times that we rendered those services to you? We didn't see you. And the master smiled and said, yes, you didn't see me, but you rendered those services to your fellow men. And in that light, you were rendering the service to me. Therefore, your salvation has come upon you. Welcome. Now, when the master told them that, what happened? Those people immediately recognized that indeed, we are no longer on air. We are no longer on air. Okay. I think the Facebook and whatever is still on. So let me continue with the Facebook. I'm so sorry. I think there's just been a serious power outage in the studio. But that notwithstanding, for the sake of my Facebook friends and YouTube, you are probably not seeing my face now. It's probably a bit on the dark side, but we won't stop the program for your sake. We'll continue until the power outage can be restored in the studio. Now, Jesus is telling us that good works arising from the understanding of the law and putting the law into practice is what will determine whether you and I will attain salvation. So, when we have that understanding, then it becomes easier. The young man that came to Jesus to ask this question was seeking the truth. He was seeking guidance. Now, he, however, was not ready to commit himself in totality. That was the young man's problem. So when Jesus told him, if you obey the commandments and you're already doing some of these good works, that is fine. But one thing is left. You must now learn to render service with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul. And the young man, according to the Bible, became very sad. He became very sad. Of course, it's natural, and it should be, as human beings, it should be easy for us to understand that. Okay, is it transmitter now? Okay. Okay. I think the power outage is being restored. Oh yes, it's fully back now. Okay. Not to worry. You see, life is about challenges. However, it is not the challenges in themselves, of themselves, by themselves, that really are so important. No. What is really so important is, what do we do? How do we handle the challenges? There was a power outage. Of course, the station has backup. Probably it was the backup that failed. That's my suspicion. There must have been an outage from the mains, the electrical supply. The backup was on, but then failed. So for like 5-10 minutes now, somebody somewhere had been running around to ensure that the challenge can be overcome. In your own life, what challenges are you facing? What challenges are facing you that you think are bigger than you, and you are not making effort to do something to overcome? As long as you think the challenges are bigger than you, honestly, you will never overcome. Why? Because your faith will remain small. And as long as your faith is small, you cannot move ahead. So that's life. That is life. I think we are back on air now. So let's continue. Jesus says it is service to others that is most important, because that is what determines the quality of your good works. So when somebody tells you, all you need is faith, good works are not important, because the New Testament, by Jesus' standard, Jesus has cancelled, it is a lie, a big one at that. Jesus never said good works are not required. He never said it. So anyone who teaches that is a liar, lying against Jesus, and the Holy Spirit will stand against him or her, as the case may be. Because Jesus is saying it here emphatically. It is your good works, that the good works that arise from your practice of your understanding of the commandments, that is what will determine your salvation. And now, your diligent service, selfless service. In fact, we must bring in that word to qualify the good works. Selfless service. Because many people nowadays are trying to do good works, but the good works they are doing is selfish good works. God will never accept that. Selfless service to humanity, that is what justifies good works. The young man in question, a seeker of truth, no doubt about it, but he was not ready in his heart to totally commit himself to paying the mandatory price for salvation. Why? He wanted to do the good works of salvation, but his heart was in secular prosperity. Is that not the problem of modern day church? Think about it. All this prosperity teaching, somebody will become a millionaire before this 2020 is out teaching. They are leading your heart, your soul, your spirit to believe that your good works lies in secular prosperity. That is the danger of prosperity preaching and teaching. And many people will be led into the damnation of God. People who had the potential to become saved will lose salvation because of the prosperity teachings they are following. Pastors inclusive. The pastors teaching those prosperity principles will be the leaders into damnation. I'm not judging anybody. I'm only surmising the teachings of Jesus. And you have the freedom to go and research, read, choose, reject. Is your choice. Jesus in no way told this man that secular prosperity in itself was bad. No, that wasn't what he said. Rather, he wanted the young man to realize that when your focus is on secular prosperity, then it becomes a hindrance to the attainment of spiritual prosperity. So, there are two sides of the story. Secular prosperity is good, but be careful, because where your heart is, that is what will constitute the treasure that you will seek. Be careful. Unfortunately, this young man was more interested in secular prosperity, and that is still the story today. Many so-called pastors encourage this loss of focus on spiritual prosperity. But Jesus always taught, and Jesus is still teaching, that spiritual prosperity is the only means of attaining salvation. Jesus never ever taught about secular prosperity. And that is the reason why the disciples of Jesus, the inner circle of the disciples, were not rich men. They were not. They were ordinary men living ordinary lives. Go and think about it. Yes, some few rich men dedicated themselves to learn from the master. That is true. Some few rich men. Jesus never said, once you believe in me, you will become a millionaire. So where did we get that from? In truth, be it in the secular or spiritual realm, everything is a form of trade in a way. One way or the other, you have to engage in a trade. In the secular world, we trade and we make transactions. We exchange goods and services for money in the secular world. Trading, commerce. In the spiritual world, in spiritual matters, honestly, we must make transactions. We must exchange something for something. And in the spiritual world, what do you exchange? You exchange and you transact obedience to the commandments. Doing good works, those are your goods of trade. Selfless service to others, those are the things you trade in for you to obtain spiritual blessings and gifts from above. What do we see now? People do not want to trade in the spirit realm anymore. People have turned themselves into beggars. Go to prayer mountains, go to wherever. They are always begging, begging, begging. God give me, God give me. I need this, I want that. Beggars, that's what they are. And that's why, look, if you remain a beggar in the spirit realm, you cannot progress much spiritually. You must arise and get to that point that you become a trader. Confidently arise. What are your goods and services in the spirit realm? Learn your commandments and begin to apply them. Dedicate yourself to rendering selfless service to others. Do good works. You are trading. And the better a trader you become, the more your blessings, the more spiritual gifts you will have, the more spiritual fruits you will begin to produce. So, attaining salvation, hey, it's not a gift to you from heaven. No, it can never be. Honestly, I am very much aware that most people will not like me for what I'm saying. I know. But the truth is, you don't need to like me. Honestly, you don't have to. All you need to look at is this messenger. What is he saying? Read the source of the message. Check it for yourself. This messenger, is he pointing me in line with the message as the message is? That is all you need to look at, and then make a choice for yourself. That's all. Money is good, but it is only of value in these secular transactions. No amount of money can buy things of spiritual value. None. And this is exemplified in the book of Acts. Please note the book of Acts passage, chapter 8, verse 18, 19, and 20. Check. 18 to 20, chapter 8 of the book of Acts. And you see in that passage a new convert named Simon, who saw people transacting in the spirit realm, and he was interested. He offered money to acquire spiritual power. Of course, he was rebuked for his ignorance. Things of spiritual value can only be paid for in obedience, in good works, in self-sacrifice, selfless service, self-denial, sometimes too in pain, sometimes too in sorrow. Secular and spiritual transactions are necessary, but there are two different modes of transactions that are not mutually exclusive. One does not preclude the other. Instead, you must learn to make the two to complement each other. That's why it says, take my life, let it be. Take my silver and my gold. Take my moments and my days. Do you understand now? Your secular transactions, you must learn how to bring them to be of profit to you in the process of your selfless, diligent service to others. The spiritual is meant to control the secular. Unfortunately, man today has separated the secular from the spiritual, and they keep the two as parallel worlds. That is wrong. The secular must run in the spiritual, because the Creator did not mean the secular and the spiritual to be separated. He didn't mean it that way. Whichever way you look at the matter, either the secular or the spiritual, a price has to be paid for what you desire to have. That you have to pay a price for spiritual transactions was what David understood, and he spoke about it in 1 Chronicles chapter 21 verse 24. This is the essence of the teaching as it concerns the rich. Truth-seeking young man wanted to make a sacrifice, but he was not prepared to it. The lesson is obtaining and living the truth of God has a price tag. Unfortunately, we have not finished the story. But then, studio time is up. If Jesus tarries and we are still alive, next Sunday, we will continue the discussion. I hope you will have time in the course of this week to give this discussion tonight, to give some thoughts about it. If you have a desire to still talk to me after this program from tomorrow morning, please feel free. You can call 0808 204 4445. 0808 204 4445. Call me on WhatsApp, call me on regular line, send WhatsApp message. Please feel free. You can see this program, even the past ones, on Facebook. The address is the Reformed Church Ibadan. You can go to YouTube, the Voice of Hope Christian Message Series. You'll find it there. And as I announced in the last 2 episodes, by God's grace, this program on Lead City 89.1 FM will come to an end next week, which will be the last Sunday of the year. But then that is not the end of the program in itself. We are only shifting ground. We'll be moving from Lead City 89.1 FM to another frequency. I can share the frequency with you tonight. It's not far from this one you're already used to. It will be on 92.1 FM by God's grace. But the station is still not ready yet. There are some administrative and technical things ongoing. So by God's grace, we will have a break of necessity. So those of you, my listeners on 89.1, I think we'll make an arrangement with the Lead City 89.1 FM to make some announcements. Of course, it has to be paid for. We'll do that by God's grace. We'll see what arrangement we can come up with so that we'll remind you of this program as to when the new station to host it is ready for it. But by God's grace, it will turn out in Thanksgiving by God's grace. So, as it pleases the Lord, may He keep and bless all of us, and may He protect us from all harm. See you, if Jesus tarries, next week. God bless you. Ouch. Hey, bro.